Okay, Mark, we're still examining some of the submissions that were made yesterday before the House Committee probing activities of the NDDC, part of which was this one.
Let me say that if you look at the year-in, year-out budget of the NDDC, 60% of the budget of NDDC every year is medical. And you also have to know that malaria has killed more children in Nigeria than even accidents and than any other thing. Even before the coming of the COVID, 60% of the budget of the NDDC is medical. So who will best fit the position of executive director in NDDC than a medical doctor to go and implement the 60% of the budget? I'm not the one that does the budget. You do the budget. Do your analysis and you find out that the most fitting person that is qualified to be there is a medical doctor because of your budget. And then lastly, sir, the last question he asked was about expenditure during this period. We cannot close down Niger Delta because of the security implications of the region. Sorry, sir. We cannot close down Niger Delta Development Commission because of the fact that we are doing forensic audit. The NDDC plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and security of the region. And 90% or more of the resources of the country on a monthly basis comes from there. If you close it down in totality, all you have will be chaos. And you have a lot of, not just militancy, but you have a lot of insurrection. So it is important that people who have gone to court, people who genuinely did jobs, should be paid for their jobs. So for me, I'm not against it because, of course, who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's you people now. Okay. Because if you look at your chairman,
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, that's okay. That's okay.
No, can I ask you that question? What is the benefit that the National Assembly is benefiting from?
It's okay.
Are you asking me the benefit of National Assembly?
Yes, you just said.
I just told you that we have record to show that most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it.
It's okay.
It's okay. The two chairmen can explain to you. That is why I was a member. I was a member of the NDDC committee.
It's okay.
Wait, you were a member of the NDDC and you were a member of the NDDC in the 8th Assembly, and are you telling me that lots of jobs were awarded to you as a member?
No, this is the problem. That's why I said you
then
must.
You have the right to accuse people. Then why can't you bring up
can you please
people
listen to me? One of the chairmen
if
also.
you were not awarded a contract, then why are you coming here that you are aware that you were a member of the NDDC and lots of contracts were awarded to you? You said I'm not aware. I'm telling you that bring up those dates.
May I inform my honorable sister that is why we have to change the
Honorable Minister, please. It's okay. That is okay.
Our Senator Ayarisha joins us next. He's a former chairman, Senate Committee on Privatization. Good morning, Senator. Thank you for joining us this morning. Well, having heard that part of the submission, that part of the probe yesterday, to say the least, Nigerians are miffed at all of these things. They just wonder, what in the world is the essence of this probe? If the National Assembly is getting 60% of these resources and contracts going to them, so does that mean that they're probing this, as some may think, because what? They want more of it?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain, for having me. The situation is such that we have to welcome this development, and it's a kind of eye-opener, for those who were not aware. A lot of revelations came out yesterday, and it means a number of corrections needs to be put in place at the executive end and at the legislative end. The fact that there is a probe, yes, there's a lot of outcry about what is going on at the NDDC, and as such, Nigerians or even the legislators could not sit back without querying and asking questions and finding possible solutions. And I think a probe of this nature would tend to maybe, hopefully, get things working better.
So when you say a probe of this nature will hopefully get things working better, in what regard? How is it going to stop the 60% of the contracts going to National Assembly members, or what?
Well, once there are consequences, every situation that is not, or that shouldn't be the norm, if we have consequences for actions that are not in tune with the tenets of our democracy, and particularly when it comes to issues of corruption, once people are apprehended and they pay for such, I believe those coming thereafter would sit up a little bit. What we have experienced in Nigeria has been a gradual democracy is work in progress, but the kind of
Senator,
progress we have been making
isn't it corruption?
Gives some of us a lot of worry.
Isn't it corruption that members of the National Assembly are awarded 60% of the contract for NDDC, which is supposed to be to develop the region, the purpose for which it was set up for?
First of all, I have not had the benefit of verifying that 60% of all the contracts there go to the National Assembly members. But I'm aware of the fact that a number of people where they find it a lot easier to get some benefits. Most of the constituency projects might have been put in there, and that means the projects that are supposed to be used to develop the areas are put in the NDDC from members from that particular region, hopefully. And as a result of the fact that the monitoring of such projects leaves a lot to desire,
Okay, Senator.
As a result,
assuming without considering that just a minute,
yeah.
Assuming without considering that it's 60%, even if it's 30% or 40%, even 10%, is it right for them to be awarded contract from NDDC? Not as constituency project now. They say contracts generally.
If you are in the National Assembly and you are executing contracts using your company, I think it's a crime. It's as simple as that. So it's not, if you are enjoying public money and you are the ones executing contracts, then it's a probable cause for maybe for trial. So I don't think that would be the case. Because
just before we move off of that one,
even though they might be influencing some of those...
Just one moment. Just before we move off of that one, this allegation is not new. It is something that's gone on for a very long time, even in this Fourth Republic. You also heard the same accusation leveled against the members of the National Assembly by Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Labor and Employment, who was saying that, the National Assembly members wanted to hijack the process. And a number of other revelations like that have come from such hearings of the Senate and House of Representatives. Yet, no one has been brought to book. No one has stepped down. No one has been probed as a result of all of these allegations. And you say it's a crime. Does that mean that, there is nothing anybody can do about it? Not even the National Assembly that has been accused?
Well, you see, accusation and bringing out facts are two different issues. With this type of allegation, the next thing is we have agencies, we have the ICPC, we have the FCC. They need to move in and verify these facts because contracts have been done over the years. So if it is proven that 60% or whatever percentage has been awarded to the National Assembly members, then such members should be brought to book. It's as simple as ABC, because it's an illegality. Whichever way we look at it.
Just one moment.
If somebody's...
Senator,
yes.
Is there a rule in the National Assembly, whether in the Senate or the House or the House of Representatives, or should there be such a rule, that whenever anyone accuses any member of the National Assembly of any wrongdoing, of using his position to amass anything to himself, is there a rule that such a person should be probed by any committee of the House or Senate?
Well, there is no immunity for any National Assembly member, and as a result, it's the laws that operate within the that governs everybody living in the country, that governs them in terms of issues of corruption. Apart from the fact that whatever you say on the floor, you cannot be indicted because of that, you cannot be sued because of that. But whatever you do that borders on corruption or any criminal activity, there is no immunity. So it's left to people to probe, and there is no law within the National Assembly that says, of course, if such a report is brought on, you do have a committee that would examine allegations of that nature. But it's not exclusive to the National Assembly. If there is proven fact that somebody, even the criminality of it is not the fact that somebody has gotten a contract. The fact that the jobs have not been done to touch the lives of the people in that region, in spite of all the money that has been going there. And that is the one that actually, bothers one. That is a collective resource, and we're trying to say that, okay, Niger Delta, this is where resources are coming from. Look after these people. Every effort has been made to ensure that the people of the place get sufficient funding for development of that region.
You are making a point, Senator, about...
There is really... Yes.
You're making a point about why no one will be brought to book. Is that right? Why will no one be brought to book?
No. Somebody needs to pay for his or her crime. So, and the way things have been going in the past, this public probe should come up, and we should have consequences. Anyone that is found wanting, either for contract splitting or for illegal acquisition of contracts without due process, and of course, due process means that you should follow the guidelines from BPP in terms of procurement procedure. We know people are not really respecting that anymore. Things, like I said, our progress in this democracy is nothing to write home about. It's like things are getting from bad to worse in terms of how people obey simple rules.
What we saw on the floor,
and they do not, yes.
What we saw at that time when I think Honorable Boma was asking the minister of, those questions, we saw the deputy chairman trying to just calm the whole thing. It appeared as though he didn't want a lot more bean to be spilled, as it were. If you were still in the Senate serving, wouldn't your colleagues have prevailed on you not to be making this kind of statement? In other words, would you be making this kind of statement if you were still serving?
Well, don't forget that I was there for 4 years, and everybody went to the Senate. One way or the other, your name is still your name. So if this had been the practice, and I have gone to collect contracts, with my constituency money, people can come out and say it loud and clear. So some of us, when you look at the situation that is going on, there are a lot of people of integrity in the Senate, but issues like this, they call to question, and it's even giving, it gives people worry. And when you go out there, oh, you are senators. Yes, people look at you sometimes with concern. They wonder whether you have just acquired all you've been able to make through corruption. And with this kind of revelation, we need to question ourselves and begin to say, is this really true? Because the fact is, it's not everybody that is engaged in this kind of practices.
Did you receive any contract when you were a senator? So when you were serving?
I did not receive any contract when I was serving. I did not even know the contractor. I merely put my own constituency project in the river basin. And they did their work. I did not know any contractor. I did not introduce any contractor.
Was it paid for by the NDDC?
The same now. NDDC, well, I knew the person who was in charge, but I didn't receive any contract. And I didn't ask for any.
I hear you on that point. I'm asking, was it paid for by the NDDC? The project that was done by you, by the person on your behalf or for your constituency?
The projects that I put in my constituency, I put them in the river basin for 3 years, you know, and as they will you just have a slip. What do you want to do for your area? Then you list it, and the thing is awarded by the agencies. Now things are. They are no longer the same from what we're hearing.
I get that point. I'm asking, was it funded by the NDDC?
Yeah. No. It was funded. Every senator and every House of Rep member has a constituency allowance to develop their areas, to go back home and say, okay, these are the things I've done for this year. And it is that I suspect that many people have been putting their money in the NDDC. And if that is what they did, they might have had some influence in those who will do the work, which obviously is wrong. The executive is supposed to implement these things. There's nothing wrong in allocating constituency allowance to the National Assembly members. But how the contract is executed, that is what is bringing all these allegations and counter-allegations. So these are areas that the leadership of the National Assembly should look at and ensure that the name of that institution is protected and guided. With this kind of, everybody will believe that every senator or every National Assembly member or rep is engaged in this. So I saw a woman that was a little bit agitated during that interview. So if you probe further, it might be that woman has never done any contracting at NDDC. So there are a number of people like that.
But Senator,
we should correct this. Yeah.
This has come up several times. And if I remember properly, I think the current Minister for Works raised some issues about constituency projects being in the budget. Why should they have it? And I think at some point when it was defending the budget, if I remember properly on that one. So is there really a need for members in the National Assembly to have constituency projects funded by an executive arm or executive agency?
Well, let me quickly say that we copied our system of government from the US. And sometimes you do have trade-offs here and there. And if a senator, for example, wants something done in his area, such a senator can influence that project to be in the budget. But it does not mean that it will not be the person executing the project. You can influence projects going to your area, and that is what is expected of you anyway. And if you're able to do that, your people, they might have the tendency to say, okay, he has done very well, he deserves to go back. Now, that will be on the basis of the kind of touch you have had on your people in terms of development, in terms of infrastructure, not in terms of how much money you made into your own personal pocket. And nobody is quarreling with that, and nobody should quarrel with that. But the issue of who now executes the job is where all this crisis, is coming from. And that is why if we do not define the role of everyone according to our constitution, the executive is the executive, the legislature is there to make laws and of course influence development for their own areas. So I don't think people are really pissed if you just influence development for your area. That is what people are in politics to do. It is, but when you now start being the executive arm, it becomes a problem.
Just one moment, Senator. There's something you said earlier about public procurement. You said that it seems like no one is living by that anymore. No one is following the due process of public procurement anymore. Could you please expatiate on that?
Again, if the Public Procurement Act is adhered to, there will be no reason for anybody to accuse a National Assembly member of getting contracts or executing contracts because they are not trained in that area. You are not, if you are the National Assembly, even if you are a civil engineer and you want to be constructing buildings, then you don't have any business being in the National Assembly. It is for the businessman. That is how society can develop. You allow people that are skillful to do the job that they are trained to do.
Just one moment, Senator. So if no one is living by the tenets of the Public Procurement Act, who is supposed to enforce it?
Well, again, one cannot say that no one is living by that tenet. Everyday person looks out for advertisement. They bid, they go there, they complete the process. Now, for you to say that 60% of contracts are awarded to National Assembly members, then that means you have not followed the due process. Otherwise, there is no way 60% will go to them. If you have followed the due process, you would follow an advert, you will quote, and not necessarily the lowest bidder, but the most responsive lowest bidder will get the job. And it cannot be that it's only the National Assembly members that are the lowest bidder in every instance. So that is why a torch must be flashed on these areas, these gray areas where we have problems. If we're able to follow up on these laws that we have put in place.
Okay, as we wind down now, from what you heard of that probe, the questioning, the response, was it really an offense in terms of the budgetary spending and allocations as they were asking?
Well, before the MD slumped, unfortunately, the question of whether he has spent money before a new budget was in place, I think that by itself would not constitute a crime unless he has spent more than 50% of the anticipated budget. Because government is a continuum. When a budget expires, then everything should not stop. And that is why there is an allowance that you can spend up to 50% of the previous year's budget to continue to sustain and run the office. So if that were to be the case, I would say, yes, ordinarily there is no crime committed along those lines, if that were the case. But if you have now spent 100% of the previous year's budget before an approved budget is put in place, then there is really a problem. Because
quite a number of people
the procurement, the budgeting act or appropriation has been breached.
Yeah. Okay, quite a number of people have said nothing will come out of this probe. In fact, they even stretch it by saying even the forensic audits, that nothing will come out of it because they've seen how this thing is going on. Do you think they have a point?
Well, I can assure you that under this government, some things will come out of it. And if all we're able to get is to ensure that we strengthen our institutions and ensure that things are done more properly, then it will be progress for Nigerians. It is not only when somebody is thrown in jail that the country benefits, But there must be punishment for wrongful acts, and that way others would desist from it. But if nothing is done, then why nothing is done must be exposed to Nigerians and say these are the reasons X, Y, Z. So,
okay, Senator.